to the show, Grace.
Hi.
Yes, I love that.
Hi.
I'm very excited to talk to you today and have you on the show. How's life? How's it going? What's happening?
Life has been good, enjoying the summer. It's been very hot. I go back and forth between Texas and LA. So it's like Texas is even like, it's just unbearably hot. It's like 108 degrees at all times.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
So it's a
I mean,
lot.
I just got back from New York and I thought that was bad enough. But the humidity there is what kills me. Like that humidity.
How hot was it? What was the
It was like
temperature?
82, but the humidity was like 70%. So I just would walk out
Yeah.
of my hotel and just feel like I just went running.
That's the worst. Yeah.
Humid. Your body is just like, oh God, what is this?
Like get me back into air
I'm
conditioning
from
immediately.
we don't have humidity. I don't know what this is. But yeah. Well, let's get into things. The first thing I always love to ask my guests is the most pivotal question, which is what made you want to be an actor?
I love that question. Mine is kind of like super weird. So I grew up on a farm in Texas, like middle of nowhere. It was basically just like my house and my dad's brother's house on with like cows and longhorns, and we rescued dogs.
So jealous.
And so the school, yeah, it was awesome. But the school I went to was like 35, 40 minutes away. And so my mom never wanted to like drive us to meet my friends on the weekends because they did that drive so much during the week. And so I was kind of left like to entertain myself. And I'm the oldest of four. And my cousin lives in the house next to us. So we kind of like, and they have four kids too. So we kind of just like all ganged up, and we had asked for a camera when I was like 9. And we made all these like home videos, home short films. Like they're honestly hilarious. We did one like called Flying Girls, and we literally cut it where it was like jump, jump, jump. It looks like we're flying across the pasture. We did one like bananas. We had my brother, he's like 6 years old, off screen, like throwing bananas. It's like bananas are like falling from the sky and like killing people. It's just like insane things. And it's like what I did every weekend. And then when I was 11, I was like, hey, mom, I really want to be an actress. And she was like, well, I know nothing about that, but if you line up everything yourself, I'll drive you where you need to be. So I got her email login, and I was like emailing agents, and like all this stuff is spelled wrong. It's like my daughter Grace wants to be an actress, daughter spelled wrong, like everything, but it worked. I lined up like headshots and like agency meetings and like, so then I just started doing commercials and feature films locally in the Dallas market.
Wow. Here's the thing. I love that you made short films with your like family, because even working as a child actor, I was doing that as well with my like friends who were also in the industry. I remember we made like a
Yeah.
Cujo short film with my friend Rory's like Yorkshire Terrier. Like it was the most ridiculous thing, but it's fun. Now I feel like kids just are like, let me make a 30-second TikTok, and we were like, let's do full short
Right.
films. Let's do this crazy stuff.
It takes a lot of work too. Like when you're doing, and then did you make your like family, your parents watch the films
yes.
too?
Yeah. You have to have your premiere.
The premieres are the funniest part, because my mom and dad have told me now, they were like, like, should we be concerned that they're doing this like on the weekends? They're like, this is kind of weird, but like, at least they're not getting into trouble.
I mean, it was like a wholesome thing to be doing, even if the subject matter was a little strange.
Right. We did one that was like a reenactment of Twilight, and I played Jacob. And so we bought a wolf costume, and I jumped and I like transformed into like this like costume wolf thing. Like it's the most bizarre thing that I was like dying to play Jacob.
I am going to surface this video and post it so that the world can see, because I am desperate for this.
It's all so nuts.
Wow. Okay, cool. So you like take your whole career into your own hands at 11. You start doing this stuff in Dallas. What was the progression going into your adult years?
So I really, when I moved to LA to like actually pursue, because I did it like commercials, like some like horror indie films, some stuff that like never came out, all of that. And then Right. We all go through like there are a couple like delusional. You got to run into some of the delusion first. But then I did go to college and I danced at University of North Texas. And then I did professional cheerleading for the Dallas
Uh-huh.
Stars. So I was like kind of dabbling in acting, but like I was still like, okay, is this something I'm gonna like really go pursue? But then like right when I graduated college, I was like, yeah, let's go try this. So I moved to LA and yeah, then I started my cheerleading experience helped me because I had auditioned for a film that I didn't get and they realized I'd moved to LA and that I had been a cheerleader. So they wanted me to do the choreography for a
Oh
Lifetime
wow.
movie, Killer Cheerleader. And I was like, I'll do it if you give me a role in the movie. And so then I got like into all these cheerleader movies and for a lot of them I did the choreography as well. And then I started getting like the lead roles of those and then just kind of started doing it like that. But I think like people, if they look, they're like, oh, she just started booking like these movies. But I had been auditioning and like, my name had been out there for years and years
Right.
before that. Like I only got it because I had
Well, and
known one of the
you did like
producers.
a really cool thing, which is you used your interesting skill set and you said, "Hey, I can do
Right.
this, but I'm also an actor and I want to be an actor in this." Like that is such a smart
Yeah,
way to break into something is just using the things
for
that you
sure.
already have in your toolbox and saying, "All right, let's go."
Right. And they were like, okay, like we'll see if we can do that. And then like, okay, you can be like the first girl who dies in the movie. And I was like, awesome. And then it was like I'm supposed to get like hit in the head in the shower. And I was like, can I scream? Like, can I do a scream? And they were like, I guess, like, sure. But they were I'm sure they were like, what a weirdo. But like then, I kept doing movies.
Hey, you know what? Being the first one killed is the coolest. That's your Drew Barrymore moment. You get to live that. It's fantastic.
It was so fun. And then they were like, okay, do you want to do the next one? You can be like the second girl who dies. And I was like, awesome. Yeah. I was like, a little bit more screen time. Like, I'll die second.
You just progressively go like I'm the first one killed, the second one killed, the third one killed, and now I'm not gonna die.
No, that was literally it. Cause then the third one, I got kidnapped and you think I die, but I don't die. And then I started getting the lead. So it was literally like first, second plot twist. I got kidnapped but survive.
I love that. I feel like there's something you could do with that, like a fun video you could make of just like the progression of how you
The-
figured out how to live through a horror film.
right. Like how to survive. Like, have you died a lot on camera
I'm
too?
trying to think. I died in a short film that I did when I was like 9. For it was like an AFI short film, and my friend Jason Dolly was in it with me, and it was about these kids who loved airplanes, and so she had
Uh,
made like a model airplane, and I went to fly it outside of the school bus, and my head gets
uh,
taken off by like a stop sign.
that is so horrible. At
Yeah.
9? Were your parents like, we can't watch
I
this?
don't remember their reaction because it was just like a short film, but it was interesting because it was the first time that I had been like put into a harness because I'd never done a stunt before that. So they had put me into this harness, and I fully remember having these overalls, and like having to put the overalls over the harness was the most annoying thing on the planet. It's just like it's so hot. It's like the middle of summer, and then yeah, being like because they obviously didn't want me to actually fall out of anything, so they had me
Right. That
harnessed
could be
in, and
dangerous.
that was nice. Thank you to AFI for taking care of the children. But
That's just so
yeah, I think that's. I feel like that's the only time I've died. I did a horror film, but I was the one who made it to the end. But
nice.
I mean, I guess the end of the movie technically, I get also taken by aliens.
So it's like left to
So who
interpretation. Like,
knows? I could have survived. Maybe my character's still living with aliens. I don't know.
right. She became besties with
Yeah,
them
yeah.
and
Became besties with the aliens in the Appalachian Mountains. It's fine. I think that's it. I mean, I've done
it's
like
amazing.
plays where my
Okay.
characters have been killed, and I've done like stunt work in that.
Oh, cool. I bet that's
I mean,
fun.
it's interesting, definitely,
Yeah.
but you know, wearing like a
Yeah.
corset over a harness is something that I don't think I want to do again.
Yeah. That seems like a lot
Yeah,
going
unless like
on
Sophia
at
Coppola
once.
calls me and is like, "Listen, we don't wear a harness and a and a corset over it, then I'll consider.
Then you're
Maybe
like,
you'll do
yeah, we can make that happen.
it. But tell me a little bit about too, like I know that you have been doing some directing and some producing. I just want to kind of know how you got into all of that, and then just what's on the horizon with that part of your
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. So for producing, I met my husband when we were doing a horror film in Glen Rose, Texas. And so then I helped on like the back end of the producing side just because like we started dating, we fell in love. And so then I kind of got into producing through him because he was like, hey, do you want to like look at this process with me? And so I was very involved in like the post production and the distribution of that film, which is Insane Like Me. And it's on like DirecTV, Apple TV, basically all the streaming platforms. And then he's gearing up to do a military film based on his brother passing away in Iraq. And so bringing me along, so I've kind of like get introduced to it like through him. And then I have some like producing things going on with my book that I can't necessarily say just yet. So kind of through, and then through writing too, that's helped as well. Like when I wrote my book, some of the things that are following that. So I'm still very new to producing, but it's definitely something that's very fun. It's like just a whole different side of the industry that, because I feel like as an actor, like I show up, have a blast, and then leave and then like wait for the final product. So it's been really cool to be involved in like the post production and the distribution and then even the pre production. Like it is such, I mean, it's like a 2-year
Yeah,
process
if
in
you're
all.
lucky.
And that's been really fun to see a project from like start to finish versus like popping in. But obviously, like I love popping in as well, but it's definitely a lot of work, but it's been cool to
Yeah,
see.
it is so much different. I feel like producing is just this endless like uphill battle until it
Oh, yeah.
releases, and then you're like, oh my god, I can
You're like, finally.
and then it's out there in the world.
Right. You just kind of like do all this work and you just release it and you're like, hopefully
Yeah,
people like it.
let's see. I don't know. I liked it. Well, no,
Have you done directing and
I
producing and stuff
have.
as well?
It's fun. I
Nice.
love it. But I'm the same way.
Yeah.
It's like there's obviously the projects that I do producing and directing on are ones that are like I love, that are close to my heart, that I've probably
Right.
written or my friends have written, and it's like more of the
Yeah.
experience of wanting to bring that to life. But just
Totally.
acting is just so much fun because you just get to like
Acting is so much
get
fun.
a script, dive in, do your work, go to set, somebody puts on your makeup, like
Right.
you don't have to sit there at 5 a.m. putting on foundation, like God, it's another day.
Right. No, I so agree. It's like more like your baby when
Yeah.
you're starting from something start to finish. But I don't know. Even in acting, I feel like my characters are still like my babies. I'm like, okay, I need to like do this
Yeah.
perfectly. But I just love the whole creative
Yeah.
process and
What's
all.
your like go-to? Do you have a go-to way of how you prepare a character and how you get ready for it?
Yeah. Well, first I'll like read the whole script, like probably like 3 or 4 times, and then I'll go through and score the script. So I'll do like inner thoughts with like each piece of dialogue. And then after I do that, then I'll go and to memorize, I write my lines over and over. So I have to get like a fresh notebook for every project. And then I just literally write the lines over and over again. But I also have already scored it. So then I'll go read the script like a ton more times with like the inner dialogue. And then maybe I'll add like new inner dialogue. So all my scripts are just like so
Yeah.
chaotic and just look like I'm insane. And then I'll have notebooks that just like look insane also because it's like the same thing over and over again. But in my head, it like makes
Hmm.
sense. And then I'll like journal as the character. So the notebook is just like, and I'm like not organized at all. So I'll write some stuff sideways, then I'll start changing
Oh my goodness.
directions. And like, it's just like so insane. But in my head, it like totally makes sense.
That would drive my OCD out the wall. Like I would be gone
I know. I don't know
from the
what, like,
house.
anyone who looks at it is like, what is this? And I'm like, it's just like a character notebook slash like dialogue. Like, I don't know. Like, don't
Just
look.
look at it, okay?
Don't look at it. It's like super weird. But and I'll do like music
Mhm.
playlist and stuff too. Yeah. What about you?
I don't have a notebook. I mean, I do. I love the music playlist. I think that's so
Yeah.
helpful, especially when it's a more dramatic character. I think the music like really helps get in the zone. Um,
I think
but
so
I
too.
don't know. I mean, I'm definitely a Meisner actor, so a lot of what I do is based on just the moment, you know.
Yeah.
But I do. There was this one time where we learned in a Meisner class that I was in. They had us do this crazy thing where they gave us a scene to do with our partner, and we had to write down all of our lines in a notebook as a monologue and
Oh.
memorize it as a monologue and not look at the scene anymore. Like literally take all of the everything out and write it down, throw away the script after, only memorize your side of it. And then
Ah,
when you go on stage to do the scene together, you have your monologue and you wait for the moment that you think you're supposed to say the next thing. And it was the most like insane thing I've ever experienced because it
it sounds so
it
confusing.
sounds like it, but when you're in it and you have all of the words there, everything's there ready to go, and you're just fully engaged with the other person because you're trying to figure out what you're going to say next. And it was like
Wait, that's kind of
it was
awesome
so
though.
cool, and it's crazy because afterwards our teacher was like, "Yeah, you actually stuck to the script perfectly." And it just
Wow.
showed how if you're just fully in the moment, the words will come. And I've never experienced anything
Right.
else like that in my life, and it was the coolest thing. So I do
Yeah.
that sometimes where I'll take all of the lines from the script and write it out as a monologue, and I'll like memorize it
Wow.
that way to see if I can do
I
that.
love that
And it's
idea.
fun. I mean, it is like a little nerve wracking the first time you do it, but like if you're doing a self tape at
Yeah.
home, who cares? Try it out.
Right. Then you can mess up. But it really makes you you then you're really just focused
I've
on
never been
listening.
so engaged in my life. Like I was just staring at my partner, like, what the fuck
You're
are you
like,
gonna like?
what are
What are
you
you
gonna
gonna
tell
say?
me?
It's just it was so
I'm gonna have
crazy.
to try that for a
You have
self
to.
tape.
You have to. It's so fun. But yeah, I loved it.
That's so awesome. That's so scary. I'll definitely practice it in a self tape first and like see
Yeah,
how it goes.
definitely. Highly recommend doing that. Well, you mentioned your book a little bit ago, but I'd love to like dive into that and talk about it. It's called Am I Perfect Yet? It's
Yes.
out now. Can you tell the
Yes.
listeners or the viewers what it's about and what inspired you to write it?
Yeah. So yeah, I had started writing it as like a script initially, and then I just started kind of like it started out like maybe as like a motivational book. Like I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with it. I started writing in like
Mm-hmm.
2021, and then I got really into reading memoirs. And so then I was like, maybe this could be like a memoir type thing. And then I got really into reading like body image
Mm-hmm.
books. Anyway, so then I was like, wait, I have a story to tell. I'm just like, now I need to like focus and hone in and like tell it. So then I started really like hunkering down in like 2022. And then now the book's out. But it's about like body image, eating disorders, dancing in college. And then I did a semi pro team and the professional team. It's about, and then I had an eating disorder in high school and throughout college while on those dance teams. So it's really but it's also then I focus on like moving to LA, pursuing acting. So it's not just like an eating disorder story. It's also like a coming of age story and like finding your authentic self and how that was like really healing to, go follow my dreams as well as like working through the body image issues and eating disorders. And then also a little bit of how like dance and the dance world impacted my views of myself. But anyways, it was like really healing to write, and it's been like I wrote it and I was like, if like one person reads it and they like it, then like this was worth it because it was so much work. But I was like, if one girl connects with it, then I'll be happy. And I've gotten so much outreach of like, I felt like I was reading my own
Mm-hmm.
story through this, or even girls who didn't have an eating disorder or didn't struggle with body image. They were like, I didn't struggle with that, but I related so much to finding authenticity and like pursuing my dreams, and, or I have struggled with self doubt. And so it's been like so awesome to, have other people. And then I've talked to cheerleaders and they're like, this is exactly what I went through. And So it's been awesome. It was definitely like a hard process, but
I can only imagine.
because you just have to like edit it and read it again and again and again, and I'm like,
I can't wait anymore.
Yeah.
I love books like that. I think especially now, I, I feel like we're around the same age where we grew up with,
Yeah.
you know, the heroin
Yes, the
chic.
2000s were like
Yeah, it was
intense.
like the heroin chic was like, you needed to be 90 pounds to be hot, or
Yes.
like watching America's Next Top Model and seeing these beautiful
Yeah.
women who have like nothing on their bodies and they're being called fat,
Yeah.
and you're like, what are you saying? It was such a
Yeah.
weird time to grow up. I saw a TikTok recently where they were like going over all of that and how that super indoctrinated us into thinking like we are never going, like our bodies are never going to be what they should be.
Yeah. Well, that because it was such a like overnight change. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, curves are in,
Yeah.
and we're
What do you
like,
mean?
no one ever like whenever I remember like that was never. It was literally get like as skinny as
Yeah.
possible. That was
Yeah.
like in, and
Well,
yeah,
even
and that's
like Bridget
yeah.
Jones' Diary, they were giving Renee Zellweger all this shit for like being overweight, and she was like 140 pounds. And it's like, what do you mean? She was.
That is not overweight.
And
Like,
even in the book, like the character was supposed to be like a little heavier, a little curvier, and
yeah,
that was like what ended up being the film. And I'm like, she looks
it's so
like
crazy.
normal. She looks healthy. Like, what do you mean
Right.
that's not big?
No, yeah. No, it really and it's like I think it was traumatizing to like grow up during that time. And I mentioned that in my book too because I when I was like in 8th grade, I remember I put my screensaver as like a Victoria's Secret model like in a
Oh my
bikini.
god, the
And it's
Victoria's
like
Secret
because I
model
thought
phase too. Oof.
yeah. And then we had like a calorie counting assignment in 8th grade and that was like super traumatizing cuz like I didn't even know what a calorie was and then it's like, you know, we're having to count them as like
Yeah,
homework in
that's
8th
horrible.
grade. Yeah, it was horrible.
Horrible. Oh my god. Yeah, and too, I think, who was it? Kate Winslet in Titanic. I remember reading that she
Yes,
was always like uncomfortable because people were always telling her that she was big, and I'm like,
yeah, she literally looks
she's perfect.
amazing.
What are you saying?
She's literally perfect. I really love her. I love how she's like, she's on some show and she was like wanting to like show her wrinkles and
Hmm.
stuff. She's like, this is like real women. Like, don't cover it. Don't like Photoshop it. Don't cover it up. I'm like, she was like so ahead of like women empowerment. I feel like before it even
Yeah.
came.
She's probably like my number one like person that I look up to as well. I mean, she's
Yeah.
so authentic, and everything she does is authentic, and
Yes. She's so talented
she's never tried
too.
to be something that she's not, which is
Yeah.
amazing in this world and in this industry specifically.
Right. Like we need gals like
We
her.
do.
Like,
Well, that's so
like
cool.
lead the
I'm
way.
so impressed that you wrote a book. You wrote a book.
I like didn't even tell anybody I was doing it either. I was like just like randomly I was like to my parents I'm like I didn't even tell them I was like trying to get a publisher or anything. I'm just like I have a book coming out. Everybody was like, "Wait, what?"
Oh my god, shock value.
They were just like, oh, "Cool, like wow."
I love that. Here you go. By the way, guys, just did this really quick. Only took me a weekend.
Well, because I was like, I don't know if I was gonna back out. Like at first, I was like, am I gonna really release this or not? And like, I don't want to like put it out there if But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Well, and I'm sure too, it's like you're sharing your emotional journey, and that takes so much courage to let everyone in
Yeah.
on your personal thoughts like that. That's
Right. It was
pretty cool.
definitely really scary. So I was like, there's a chance I back out of this. So like let me not tell anybody really.
Applause.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
gal. Thank you.
Congratulations. Wow. Well, this is the part of the show where I like to have my guests share an audition story from their past. It can be something funny, the one that got away, something tragic. Is there a story that you would like to share with the audience?
Yes. Okay, wait. This one is like just a little silly. Okay, so I actually did end up booking it. It was like a horror film that shot in
Ooh,
Austria.
fun.
And so yeah, It's coming out soon, actually. I didn't even know that. But anyways, that is like a whole story in itself. I didn't know it was like a found footage movie initially when I was doing it. We'll get to that later. But anyways, the first scene was like she's like a host for this like YouTube show. So the first scene was like la la, whatever, talking about the show. And then the second scene, she finds her friend dead. And so it's like crying and screaming. And this was like when in-person auditions were still a thing. And I was like, oh gosh, I was nervous to like do that switch so quick in an audition room. And so I was like, and so then I put vapor rub on my finger. Okay. And so then I do the first scene. I'm like, la, 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 whatever. And then I'm like, yeah, can I have a second for the second scene? I like turn around. I just shoved the vapor rub into both of my eyes. And then I turned around and I like am like screaming and crying and like just sobbing like hysterically, obviously, because vapor rub is burning my eyes. And then the scene's over and they're like, wow, they're like, whoa, like okay. And then I'm like still crying and they're like, whoa, you're like really into it. You're like still crying. I'm like, yeah, still crying. I'm like, yeah, sorry, that was like really intense. Like, and then anyways, but I did book it. So, and I don't think they ever knew I used vapor rub.
Did you just like run to the bathroom after you left? Like, what did you do? How did you drive home?
I went to the bathroom and I was like having to like take off my makeup and like and sneak out of there before anybody saw me. I was like,
I mean, listen, you got to do what you got to do to book a role that you like, right? I mean, as long
totally.
as we're not crossing any lines there. But the vapor rub, might as well try it.
I was like, because like now I'm better at like crying on cue, but at that time I hadn't done multiple horror. I mean, I had done like some, but that was my first like lead role, and like I didn't have the hang of it as good as I do now. So I was like, what if I can't cry? Like I could sometimes. I was like, the tears are really important for scene like this. Like if they're missing,
like
it's not going to sell.
Where you can just be like, it's dramatic and it's emotional, but if you don't cry, it's not going to ruin the scene. But a scene like
of course,
like,
they kind of need some tears to show, but it did work.
And like, for a lot of, there's so many actors nowadays who have entered this space who've never had this in-person experience where you do need to make that switch super quickly. And it is so difficult if you are going from like a cutesy scene to a very emotional scene in the matter of 30 seconds. Even like, I mean, there's so many times I would do that where I'd be like, can I have a second before we go into this? And thank you. And then you like turn around and you're like, am I going to get there? Is it going to get, am I going to?
Right. That's what I was worried about. And they're just sitting there waiting for you to get there. So it's kind of pressure.
And then being like, they're waiting for me to get there. I guess I just got to turn around and do this.
Right. And that's what I was like nervous, because I knew I like had done a self-tape before. So this was like the callback was in person. It's like, and if you're doing a self-tape, it's like you can take as much time to get there as you want, and you're not worried about making someone wait. But when you're in the room, it's like you're taking up their time. You need to.
You can't just pull out some like Visine and put it into your eyes real quick.
Well, then it's like still on your hand, so I was having to like wipe it off, and like because they wanted to like shake my hand too. I was like, oh no, like
she smells like vapor rub.
Right, they're like,
I love that. Fantastic story. That's a great one. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, is there anything coming up? Anything that's next for you that people should be on the lookout for?
Yes, 2 Lifetime movies. One, they always change the name, but one, I'm the Killer, which is like the first time me being the killer, so that'll be fun. I will be something similar to like Friends Obsession. And then the other one that might change is like DNA Secrets. It's like a thriller. And then the horror one of the one I just told you that I booked, that one's coming out soon. And so we filmed that like back in like 2020. And so it's been like a long process, but they've already been doing like test audiences and stuff. And apparently it's like really weird and scary. So I was like, okay, cool. The vapor up. We'll see how it did.
How it held up. Oh
Yeah,
wow,
we'll
that's
see.
great. Yeah, found footage movies. I found like because I did one too, and they take forever to edit because
Yeah,
it's just so difficult to edit them.
it's so much footage. Like especially if you use multiple
Yeah,
cameras or like head cameras or A cam, B cam.
wild,
Yeah.
wild stuff. Well, how can people follow you on
Yeah.
social media to keep up with all of your releases and all the fun stuff going on?
Yes. So I'm only on Instagram. It's just Grace Victoria Patterson.
Right.
Yes.
Easy peasy.
Simple, my full name.
The full name, just in case you need it, in case anyone needs
Full
to
name.
mom yell at you.
Yeah.
Well,
Put it all out
thank
there.
you so much for coming by. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I'm super excited to see these horror films because I'm a horror fanatic.
Me too, gal. Me
So
too.
stoked to see them. And yeah, thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Thank you so much for having me.